Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Heatherina, and I do stories about true crime. So if you're new to my channel, hi, welcome to the shit show. So on the bottom right of the screen, you can click that little piece of chalk, and you can subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell button because I guess notifications aren't coming up unless you hit that. Also like this video. Come on, support a girl. If you are one of my returning subscribers, yay, I'm so happy you're here, and I still thank you guys so much for the support and starting this channel, because it was you guys who helped me doing the air guns, like some creepy 1970s thing. I mean, my name is Heather. But anyways, you guys, here's the fingers again. You guys are the ones that really pushed me to do these videos and things. So yay, I really like connecting with you all. I do try to go in and answer a lot of the comments. I don't always have the time, but I try to. So drop a hi and where you are from, because yeah, I like to see where everybody's from. So usually I put on makeup when I do a lot of my videos, but now I have like this little corner that I'm doing them in just because I want to. So today's story is about Andrew Burd. I don't know if any of you guys have heard this case. This one is a doozy. So an actor. So I'm the girl that talks really weird sometimes. Yeah, ADHD brain, and like things are in my brain and sometimes they don't come out the way they're supposed to. You just got to deal with me. So in October of 2006, a 4-year-old from Corpus Christi, Texas named Andrew Burd died mysteriously of salt poisoning. Yes. His foster mom, Hannah Overton, was charged with capital murder. So did you guys hear about this? Because this one's a little doozy. I don't know why, but when I read this one, I was just like, wait, what? So little is known about Andrew's bio mom, but some of the things that did come up was she was 16 when she had him, July of 2002. She later admitted that she was pretty bad into substances, guys, like pretty bad. His father worked for a traveling carnival. When Andrew was 1, he was taken to the hospital because he had a broken arm, and that's kind of when CPS got involved and started investigating these guys. By 2.5, CPS determined that he was in danger and that he could not stay with his bio mom or his bio grandmother because she was also doing substances as well. And yeah, they put him in foster care when he was 2.5, and a little after 3, they severed the parents' rights completely. Now, the foster mom that took him in, guys, like, she was kind of sketchy and bitter, but we'll talk about that later. But I have my own opinions about her. She just, yeah, I'll stick her interview in here. So let's talk about Larry and Hannah Overton. So they got married at a young age, and they had a really big family, and they were living in Corpus Christi, Texas. They had a huge heart for kids, and they were very religious Christians. Hannah Overton did volunteer work most of her life. She volunteered at orphanages across the border. She used to spend her time helping like homeless children get clothes and like, excuse me, supplies and things. Oh my God. It's like nearing spring here. And like everything is like, it's not good. Okay, so Hannah really loved children, and she had told Larry that one day she really just wanted to adopt a child. Even though, you know, they had 4 children of their own, she just knew that she wanted to do that. And that was just like, she was very adamant about wanting to adopt. In 2005, Hannah and Larry started to take the adoption process a lot more seriously, making sure they were all lined up to adopt when the time came. They actually came across a little boy in their church who was a foster child, and his foster family attended the church. The little kid, of course, was Andrew Burd. So Andrew was 4 years old at the time, and he had a speech delay and spoke really gently, and sometimes even spoke with a stutter. They noticed that he did have a lot of behavioral problems, but the Overton family found out that every day Andrew was going to church and he was praying that he was going to be adopted. Like, that's just sad to me. So they had thoughts about adopting him. Of course, a lot of the church goers were like, that's not a good idea. He has a lot of behavioral problems. They were just giving them a lot of warnings about little Andrew. He was actually supposed to be adopted by the church pastor and the wife. And they soon found out that that wasn't going to be a good fit because he was just way too much to handle. But the Overtons wanted to try and take up the challenge of adopting Andrew. But at the same time that they made this decision, you aren't even going to believe this, Hannah ended up pregnant again. So you would think that this would like detour her because now she's going to have 5 kids, but it did not. She wanted to continue with adopting Andrew. Like, she wanted to do this. She was all for it, and she knew that she could help him. She was so adamant about continuing the adoption process while being pregnant, which kudos to her. That's a lot of kids, a lot of work. Andrew was going to live with them for like a 6-month trial period, kind of seeing like, does he fit into the family? Does he like to be here? You know, just like a trial period, which, you know, it's a good idea to see if kids fit in. Everyone at church, though, said that they noticed that he was a lot better. Like, his behaviors were getting better. He was very physically and mentally behind. He had trouble speaking and was very clumsy, and that really worried the Overtons. But a lot of his behaviors were getting better, and Hannah would say at home it was not getting better. But people in the community said that they noticed that he was getting better. Like, it seemed like it was a really good match. One of the first things that they had a real big issue with was he was so obsessed with food. Now, if you watch my Kids That Kill series about my experience, that is something that is like developed in a very young age when kids are withheld food. And these are things before like 36 months, guys, you know, like being withheld food. A lot of kids that are in the foster system or getting adopted, they go through these obsession with food. And Andrew was just as bad. You know, if he was denied seconds or thirds, he would throw a complete fit, like temper tantrum, out of control. He would go as far as looking for like crumbs on the floor, trying to eat things like Play-Doh, toothpaste, pieces of carpet. Y'all have heard my story. It's pretty intense. You know, dealing with a kid like this, it's not just like, here I can give you seconds and thirds and then they stop. It does not stop. It goes on and on and on. And there is like no amount of food that could ever make things better. Later that year, his behavior issues got worse after their family got into a car accident. Now, nobody was hurt really bad. Hannah did have whiplash and she did get a gash above her head. But after that, it just seemed like Andrew was more off. And it really seemed to bother him quite a bit. So he would just, it says, his eating habits just got more intense after that. And no matter, like I was saying, no matter how much food he ate, no matter if he ate and then threw it up, he would still want to eat. It's like a serious problem for a lot of kids. They started getting really worried about him because they noticed he would eat like the foam out of his mattress, pieces of the wall. So they decided to take him to the adoption therapist, where they realized that Andrew may have something that's called pica or pica. I've heard it called both ways. And it is a condition where they eat non-food items. So on October 3rd, 2006, Larry had left early for work and Hannah was home with Andrew and another one of her sons. She still was not feeling good, guys, so she decided that she was going to scoop both boys up, bring him to her bed. She was going to rest in bed. She was going to put cartoons on for them, you know, and that way she could rest and things still. And she fell asleep. So she woke up. Andrew was gone. She starts freaking out. She goes to look for him, and he is in the pantry just shoving his face full of baking ingredients, she said. She said she just took him away, put him in the cabinet, and he started then asking for lunch. And she stated to him, we're going to eat in a little bit once Larry gets home. And you see this little boy started calling them mom and dad, you know. So she was like, we're going to eat. And dad comes home. He's going to make us stuff. And he started throwing a temper tantrum. And she just didn't want to deal with the temper tantrum. She didn't feel good. So she decided to make this soup. So she put, let me remember the name of it. It's Cajun spice soup. She made the soup for him. She gave him a bowl. He wanted more, and she was like, no, you know, dad's going to be home soon. He threw a massive temper tantrum, kicking his feet, stomping his, stomping his little fist down. So she gave him more. Now, it did not say if the soup ran out. It didn't clarify if there was no more soup. She just said he started to throw a fit again. So she took this Creole seasoning. She put it into a sippy cup. She put some warm water in there, shook it up, and she gave it to him. Okay. Well, she said that when that was gone, he started throwing a fit again for about 20 minutes. And she said then all of a sudden Andrew got really quiet. And she said that was really rare for him to get really quiet. He started acting like he had the flu. She said then he started complaining that he was cold. And then she said all of a sudden he just like passed out. So she scoops him up. She puts him in the car. She takes him right up the road there to the doctor's office. She said it was right up the road on the corner. She takes him up the road. And when she's in the parking lot, he becomes unresponsive completely. So they get little Andrew. They start working on him, doing CPR and things. And you guys, this little boy dies. He dies. Whew, this is a doozy because I can't even imagine that mom right now, like, being in there. So it says that when they did tests and stuff, like his test came back, that he had an insane amount of salt in his diet. And this is where things kind of get honky-dory here. You know my weird sayings. So he had an insane amount. Not only that, he had a bleed on his brain, which the doctor said is common with a salt overdose. Like it breaks blood vessels and things. So they weren't really sure because they didn't see any bruising, no cuts or anything on the outside of his head. But he did have a brain bleed. So they just pretty much figured it was from the salt incident. So of course, they arrest Hannah. Instantly arrest her. And she claims, she's innocent. Well, the cops end up going to their house. And there's some weird things that they see when they went to the house. So when they had went there, they had noticed that it was his bed frame and no mattress. And there's a pillow and a blanket on there. That he'd been sleeping on the wood of a bed frame. They noticed that his sheets were in the grill and they were burned. So they started questioning Dad, like, why does this look like this? And he was like, let me explain. So, a few nights before, or the night before all this incident happened, Andrew got mad about a food situation, and he was in his room, and he had shit everywhere, guys. He had shit all over his room. He took it and he spread it and he painted it on everything. He painted it on himself, on his bed, on the walls, on the floor. He had it everywhere. So Dad took the whole mattress. He took it outside. He said he sprayed it down, to get it all off of there. He said he took the sheets and he threw them in the trash can. And he said that Andrew would go and get the sheets and bring them back out into his room. He would put them back in the trash can. Andrew would just bring them back into the room again. He said that he went and threw them in the dumpster. Andrew went and got them again and put them back in his room. And he was like, I'm done with this. These are gross. There's no way this is all going to come out. So he said that he stuck them in the grill and he burned them so that Andrew could not take them back in. Okay. So then they questioned, like, why was he sleeping on the bed frame? Well, the mattress is outside drying. Well, why wouldn't you have him sleep like on the couch or in bed with you? And they kind of explained that he got into things and they had to keep an eye on him and stuff. So he had to be in the room. And they didn't really explain, like, if they made a little, like, bed on the floor for him in there and he climbed back up on the bed frame. It didn't really say that. But a medical examiner also noted that there was blunt force trauma to Andrew's head. Now you see, when they arrested Hannah, Hannah and, I wanted to call him Andrew, and I'm over here like, oh. They arrested both Overtons on charges, and they took their kids and put them in foster care, you guys. Yeah. This gets really interesting. So they start interviewing their kids, and their kids would say things like, when we got into trouble, that mom and dad would take like a piece of hot pepper and put it on the end of our tongues. So then they went in and they talked to Hannah, and they were like, okay, your kid said this. Why were you doing this? And she stated, like, when I was younger and I was a nanny, the family was a really religious family that I worked for, and that's what they used to do with their kid, and I kind of just brought it into my raising of kids. But they did say that Hannah's behavior when she was being interrogated was very strange. Like, when they would ask her things, she would kind of laugh or smile. And another thing that was noted is like the medical examiners and the worker, not the medical examiner, but the workers at the hospital and stuff, the nurses and the doctors and stuff, said when they were doing CPR and they would look at Hannah, that she would have a smile on her face. Now, it's went back and forth that there's some people, I'm one of those people that smirk or smile when like, it's like the wrong time to do it. It's like a nervous tick. So it's like, did she have a nervous tick? She claims she has a nervous tick, that when she's nervous or she's upset that she smiles or she's kind of inappropriate. And she like apologized in things in interviews like, I'm sorry, this is not funny, but this is just how I react. They thought it was very strange. Let's get back to this other foster mom. When he first got put into foster care, he got put with this older woman, and there was an interview which I'm going to stick in the video, but it was I don't know, I was watching it and she just seemed so bitter and so nasty and so like condescending to me. She came across to me as very just bitter and nasty, but she claimed that when Andrew lived with her, he had no food issues, he had no behavioral problems, she had no problems with him at all, she could leave food out, he never got into nothing. But then it was weird because like people at the church and stuff said that he had severe behavior problems, and this is like many people. You know, the pastor, his wife, many people at the church said he had behavioral problems and stuff. But this one foster mom, she's like, oh no, I didn't have any problems with him. No problem. Like she exaggerated, like no problems with him. You know, it was them. I mean, it was like she was very like judgy, pointy fingery. Like I'm being right now, very judgy, fingery. You gotta laugh at me, guys. I'm telling you, I'm a weirdo. But finger pointery people.
Hannah Overton says she loved 4-year-old Andrew Burd, but prosecutors believe she fatally poisoned the young boy with a Cajun spice and water last October.
News of Andrew's bizarre death by salt poisoning hit the Texas Gulf Coast like a hurricane. Overnight, Hannah and Larry Overton's quiet life was shattered.
It's somebody's worst nightmare after your child dies, to be told that somebody thinks it's your fault.
We were just waiting for someone to look at it and say this is just an accident.
And instead
we were arrested.
To investigators, Andrew Bird's death was no accident. The authorities quickly began weaving a sinister tale of murder, a pregnant mother of 4 who became overwhelmed with the arrival of a foster child. Former Nueces County prosecutor Sandra Eastwood.
Andrew had an enraged mother who didn't, I don't think, love him the way that she loved her own biological children.
The prosecution's theory was that Hannah turned abusive, ultimately forcing him to consume a toxic dose of this Creole seasoning. Detectives even used the Overton's own children to build a case against them. These interviews, obtained exclusively by 2020, show what investigators believed were unusual forms of punishment.
You get pepper?
Yeah, pepper.
What does that mean?
It's like spicy and it hurts your mouth. We have a security camera that's facing his bed. Like every night my mom watches it until we see him fall asleep.
Why?
And then to make sure he doesn't do bad things.
It's a little odd. You adopt a child, you watch the child through a security camera because he's always in the bed. All these things started like adding up like pieces in a puzzle.
The odd circumstances found at the Overton home were detailed in these arrest warrants, describing a virtual torture chamber.
This case boils down to a woman who tortured a child, making him sleep on rough plywood, burning sheets, becoming so enraged she forced him to have 23 teaspoons of hot pepper, and then watching him die in agony for 2.5 hours.
A grand jury charged both Hannah and Larry Overton with killing Andrew Burd, capital murder, and automatic life sentence in Texas because Andrew was under the age of 6. But the Overton's church community, led by Pastor Rod Carver and his wife Noreen, saw the accusations as ludicrous. The church even raised $700,000 for their defense.
It's so bizarre because she's really the last person you would think would be charged with this type of crime.
While Hannah and Larry awaited separate trials, Hannah gave birth to a baby girl, Emma. But child welfare placed all 5 children with loved ones, allowing the couple only supervised visits. From day one of Hannah's trial, prosecutors attacked Hannah's seemingly calm, motherly demeanor and made her out to be an abusive monster.
A comment someone made was that it appeared that this child had been in a fight with a porcupine.
I remember some kind of injury that was there. I remember there was either bruising on the elbows or the knees.
And there was more damning testimony, this time from Andrew's foster mother before he lived with the Overtons, Sharon Hamill.
Andrew was not a difficult child to take care of. At least he was not when he was with me. I used to keep fruit and things on the table, and I never had Andrew take anything off of the table and hide it or eat it.
But Hannah told the jury the exact opposite.
We did have problems with him. He had real obsession with eating. When mealtime was over, it almost always ended in tears.
Hannah and Larry say they first tried giving Andrew as much as he wanted to eat, and his appetite was often startling.
I think I made him 1.5 dozen eggs and a bunch of bacon, and he would eat. He ate to the point where he threw up.
He ate 1.5 dozen eggs?
After he had thrown up.
And then he said, see, you're too full, you're throwing up, that's why you don't have room in your tummy, that's why it's coming back out.
According to the Overtons, in one sitting, Andrew would eat 5 bananas or an entire jar of pickles. And people outside the home also witnessed Andrew's bizarre eating. Christina Velasquez, his Sunday school teacher at the time, says she had to move the trash can away from Andrew.
He was always putting things in his mouth. When it came time for craft, he would try to eat the glue. He would try to get things out of the trash.
And she told the jury, the marks on his body may have been self-inflicted.
He was always picking at his scabs. If he had a little bug bite, he would scratch it so much that it would start to bleed.
And what about the odd circumstances in the Overton's house? That camera pointed at his bed, for instance. Hannah says it was just her way of coping after a family car crash, which put the pregnant mother of 5 on bed rest. Hannah says the child video monitor helped her make sure Andrew was safe while she was recovering from her injuries.
His eating problems escalated. Just everything just got 10 times worse.
Then Hannah's defense introduced a medical mystery. An adoption caseworker took the stand to say that before any of this happened, she had suggested Andrew might have pica. It's a strange eating disorder marked by an excessive appetite, sometimes for things that aren't even edible. And Andrew's behavior the day before he died, say the Overtons, became even more disturbing. It started as another tantrum.
When he was put into his room, he got really upset, and he pooped on himself, and he got the poop and he was smearing it. He smeared it all over the wall and all over the sheets and it got all over the mattress. It was all over the place.
Which is why Hannah and Larry say the mattress was outside and the Spider-Man sheets were burned. It wasn't an act of cruelty, as the prosecution suggested. It was just a clumsy attempt to clean up feces that Andrew had smeared everywhere.
My husband had put the sheets in a bag and put them in the trash because they were so soiled, and I know that Andrew kept coming in and trying to get the sheets out of the trash can.
I knew there was another set to replace them with. And so my solution, in my frustration, was just to burn them.
Hannah says Andrew slept on their bedroom floor that night in a sleeping bag. The next day, the day Andrew died, Hannah says she gave the water with Zatarans not to punish him, but to soothe his appetite.
Could it be that you held his nose, held his neck, and made him drink this horrible concoction?
Absolutely not.
Did you force feed him salt?
Absolutely not.
Did you force feed him Zatarans?
No.
It just doesn't make sense.
Hannah's trial attorney, Chris Pinedo.
The prosecutor said Hannah was holding the child by the throat and pouring the salt down.
It could have happened where his nostrils were squeezed and he was made to drink it.
How many hands does she have to hold his mouth open, hold him by the throat, and yet pour it down? It's just not going to happen.
But what about the idea of pepper flakes as punishment? Hannah says the prosecution got it all wrong.
It's a very, very different situation. A long time ago, we had a pastor that suggested that you get the Pizza Hut pizza flakes and put one on their tongue. They weren't forced to ever eat it. It was just stick your tongue out, get the pepper flake like that, and then take it off. It's a very quick reminder that we can hurt others with our tongue.
But if Andrew wasn't punished with seasoning, where did the salt come from? Hannah says she's still haunted by something she might have missed that day while recovering from the car accident.
I had taken the Tylenol with codeine and I dozed off for a minute. And when I woke up, Andrew wasn't there, so I went to go see where he was, and he was in the pantry. He was trying to get into something on one of the top shelves. I think that it was either the salt or the pepper, but I'm not really sure exactly.
With Hannah facing life in prison, which version of events would the jury believe?
Read the jury found the defendant, Hannah Ruth Overton.
So yeah, like I took her, she rubbed this girl wrong. So mom gets arrested, she gets charged with murder, she's in prison. Dad gets let off on the charges. Like I was kind of confused about the charges, murder charges on him anyways. He wasn't even home. So that was like weird. I was like, why isn't it like child abuse charges or whatever, but why is it this? But he ended up getting let off on the murder charges, and he got his kids and they go and visit her and everything. She continues to state that she is innocent. Now, there has been some new things that she is fighting to get out right now, and they are reinvestigating things because this is all new stuff that's kind of coming out. But I guess they tested like this contents of his stomach, and there wasn't like excessive amounts of salt and things in his stomach. So everybody's kind of like, wait a minute, why didn't this come out before? I guess it was something that was overlooked, that wasn't brought into court. So now they're reopening everything and they're investigating everything again. So she may be getting out. And one of the articles I did read, which I couldn't be sure for, and I don't like to quote things that are true or not true if I don't know them, but it stated that she was out already and she is back with her kids and her husband. We're going to keep up on this case. I find that it was very interesting. So do you feel like mom poisoned this little boy? That foster mom was like, oh, I'm done with this crap. He won't quit eating, you know. And, you know, I get a lot of people that are going to come on my comments and be like, just feed him. So there was a situation, and I knew that comment was going to be because I have been told that in my own story. If you haven't seen it, it's Kids That Kill. And I did a whole series on what I went through with 2 kids that kill. There isn't an off button with these kids. So everybody's like, just feed them. God, what's the big deal? So dad, one time, he was like, oh my God, like every time I feed him, he's just like, I want more, I want more, I want more. He's always trying to eat. He's always mouthing things. So he made him a dozen eggs, and he made him like a whole entire plate of sausage links. He was like, go at it, buddy. If you're hungry, you eat, you go at it. Well, he ate all of it. All of it. A dozen eggs, guys. He ate all of it. This little 4-year-old ate all of it. And dad said he threw up everywhere, and he was like, okay. He doesn't have an off switch. Like dad realized, like no amount of food, he doesn't feel full. But dad said he threw up, and then he threw a fit because he wanted more. And dad was like, no, you're not getting more. You just threw up. And he like threw a massive fit and started eating things wherever he could find them and putting them in his mouth. And dad was like, that was like the eye opener for him, that there is no off. There's no off. And that is fact, guys. I lived it myself. I can tell you, as a person that's sitting here in front of you, I had 2 of them. Horrible. 2. And there's no off. They could eat dinner seconds, thirds, fourths, all the way to 100, and they would just keep going. And even when the food runs out, they're still looking to steal food, get into food. And it's a problem. And it's very hard to fix that problem. No amount of food fixes it. Readily made food, you know, available doesn't fix it. I tried a fanny pack on the front of them with food. Didn't fix it. I tried like a food container in the room. It doesn't fix it. So this family was going through some pretty deep stuff with this little boy. So it makes you think, did he, I want to know, you guys say something in the comments because I want to know, did he, when he got into the pantry and was eating baking goods, could he have ate a whole bunch of salt or products with a whole bunch of salt in it? Did mom feed him spoonfuls, because that's what they're claiming, she fed him spoonfuls of the seasoning. Did she feed him spoonfuls of this seasoning as like a punishment? Was this 2 bowls of soup and the sippy cup with the seasoning and stuff in it too much? I want to hear your guys' opinions below, please, because this, I have my own theory on this, but I want to hear somebody else's. But for now, I gotta go. You guys have a great day. Bye, guys.